All right, good morning everyone who are here and those of you who are joining from online. So, welcome. So, I want to start with this first. How many of us have been to Singapore? Only one, okay. So, the rest of you have not been to Singapore yet? Have you been to Singapore? Yes. You? No. Okay, all right. So we have two people who've been to Singapore. So if you haven't been to Singapore, I assume one day you will, right? You want to go, right? Yes. Okay. So since to help you, I hope it's online. Is everyone been to Singapore before? Ask them to respond. Yeah. If you're online, let us know. So what I'll do is I'm gonna prepare you for your Singapore visit. Okay? So I'm going to teach a little bit of the way we speak in Singapore. Alright? Okay, so let me teach you that. Alright? Yeah. Alright. So you see, in Singapore we like to do this. This statement here, I want to makan. Right? You know what that means, right? But we like to add something to it at the end. We like to add la. So how we say it is, I want to makan la, right? So it depends on the intonation you use, right? If you are, let's say, with your girlfriend, you will say, hey, I want to makan la. Yeah, that's a sweet way of saying. A grouchy husband to his wife, I want to makan la. It means you are grouchy, right? So let me show you a few more sentences and I want you to help me to add. You're going to say it together with me and then you're going to add the la at the end. Okay? Alright, next sentence. Don't be like that. La. Alright, correct. Don't be like that is don't be like, let's say you are being grouchy or you're being sad or you are just being fussy, someone will come up to you and say, hey, don't be like that lah. Right? So that's what it means. Next one. Let's go lah. So when you ask someone, hey, let's go, you don't just say let's go, you say, hey, let's go lah. Yeah?
La is for
everything.
Or
We just add it. It sounds nice.
okay.
So we add la to everything. Alright? Let me show you another example. Don't be one kind, la. One kind here is when we say, like when someone is behaving in an odd way, right? Instead of saying that particular thing that they are behaving like or we don't like, we call it one kind, right? Means it's a behavior, right? But we like to add la. Another one. Uncle, I will take that one. Nah. So when you want to buy something, it's an auntie or an uncle. Usually in Singapore, we call everyone who's older or auntie or uncle. Yeah. So they'll say, Uncle, I want that one. Yeah. La. All right. Next one. Please finish this presentation quickly. La. Okay, I will try. I'm not very long. All right. So now you are ready to go to Singapore. Alright? Just add la to everything and people will feel like you're from there. Alright? But again, next. So, today our topic is culture of learning. Right? So what I shared with you just now is a culture. Right? Which is very unique to Singapore. And if people ask me why do you add la to everything? I think it's a fond way of saying things. Yeah, just like I'm sure in Indonesia, I know we also say things a certain way, but because it's a sweet way of saying things. So in Singapore, it's just different, but we also, that's why we like adding la to everything, right? Just sounds Singaporean, all right? So my name is Mano, and so today, I want to talk about culture, but I'll tell you what we are not going to do. This is not a deep dive, it's not a thesis into culture. I know there's lots of books on culture, subcultures. We're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about culture in the context of a learning organization, right? And then I'm going to give you an example of a real life culture of learning that is practiced by $1 trillion company. And we'll look at what are those things. We will practice some of it, and let's see how it applies to us, and that will reflect on how we can apply not only on the organization that we work, even in our families, and also teams that you lead one day. What if you're leading one, or you will end up leading one day? How do you build a culture, right? But we'll start and we'll kind of like isolate that just into a culture of learning, because we're a learning organization. Okay? All right. Next. So, learning, teaching, and environment, right? So these are the three elements in any learning organizations we focus on for improvement, right? So we focus on the teaching. What do we teach? How do we teach it? What level that we teach it? Okay? How can we enhance the teaching? And we have done a lot of things in Sampurna. We've had hybrid classes. We introduced Canvas, right? So we embed technology to ensure the quality of teaching is at a high level. The staff that we hire and maintain, right? We want the best so that teaching can be maximized. So again, learning and teaching is very related. How do we teach? Do we just teach, or do we emphasize pedagogy? Do we emphasize on best ways, best practices, how to teach, right? And of course, finally, the environment. Do students have a conducive environment so that they can learn? Now, the interesting thing is, all these three things are related. If you improve the teaching, the learning will improve. If you improve the environment, teaching can improve. So they are all related. So when you work on one, the other thing also follows along, right? The other day I was observing a class, and the teacher, the instructor actually broke people into small groups so that they can work on their task. Then one of the students raised their hand. She said, "Sir," teacher went, "Yes, Wi-Fi not good." So I think they were trying to work in a group and share a file, but the Wi-Fi signal was not strong. Right? And I know in the 19th floor or some pockets, certain classes, the Wi-Fi doesn't cover, right? So I think the student was there. But again, that's environment. So if we improve that, if that student, when she wants to share a file and she has immediate access, that improves the learning. They are able to collaborate effectively. Doesn't mean they cannot collaborate, but it will be more effective. And if that learning improves, then the teaching also makes more sense. That activity of grouping and collaboration becomes effective and not frustrating for the student. So you see how all these three are linked. But all these three things does not happen on a vacuum, in a vacuum, right? It happens in a context of culture, right? It's like what permeates. It's all around us. Even as I share this, it's in the context of the culture of this institute, right? There are certain things that you think and you feel as I teach because there's culture, right? There's culture. So that is what we're going to talk about today. So what is culture? Qualities that influence every aspect of learning, everything. Okay, not just one or two, but everything we do. What we say, how we greet each other in the morning, right? The tables, the chairs, the rooms, okay? Your boss, your students, everything. contributes to the culture. What decides what the culture is. Alright? And the interpersonal interactions. How you communicate. What words do you use? Right? How do you talk to the students? How do the students talk to the teachers or instructors? Impacts culture. Alright? And the learning environments that we create. Next. So, when we look at any institutes, alright, if you look at any institutes, these are the big words we see in their mission and vision. Right? We'll see words like excellence, empathy, innovation, creativity, diversity, industry skills, correct? Most organizations, right, they will have this kind of big words, right? And it's, you go to any organization, you check their BCBC, it's always like this, big words. But here's the question. Do perceptions match experience? What you say on the BCBC, what you put on billboards, is what at the end people in that culture feel. Is it reality? Do I feel those things? Do students feel I'm learning industry skills? Or I'm just going through textbook? Perception and reality can be very different. Right? So this is where culture can enhance or hinder. Next. So these are the extremes of a culture. It can be nurturing or it can be toxic. Right? And I'm sure those of us who have worked for a long time, you've been in this spectrum now, yeah? You've been in nurturing environments, but you also maybe have been very close to toxic environments where you feel like, I just need to leave this place. Right? And it's always on this spectrum. Right? So that's why those words in the BCBC actually means nothing until the perceptions and the reality match. Right? So who makes perception and reality match? All of us. All of us. Every one of us. That means if we want to make the BCBC of Sempurna University a reality, all of us, our leaders, our bosses, people under us, our students, what is it? Environment, everything. You're right. Must reflect what is written. If not, the culture is not conducive. Right? It is not conducive. So let's move on. So I'll give you an example of this school. This is in their mission statement. Community, respectful dialogue. Hebat, right? Respectful dialogue. That means we can disagree, but we can respectfully have a dialogue. Right? That's what it means. Community means the importance of, even though we are from different backgrounds, different religions, different tribes, we are together, we are a community. So, wow, amazing words to use in this school. In the same school, this is what the students shared, and I want you to read it. I was surrounded by people who wouldn't care about how they hurt me. But that's the BCBC, remember just now? So do perceptions and reality match? No. So is the culture nurturing or toxic for this student? Toxic. And it's the same. You know why I shared this example? Because I can relate to this. I went through the same thing, right? Where I came from, I was a minority, and I was called names. They have a derogatory name that they call towards Indians, right? When I was growing up in school, but no one did anything. The teacher would not stop. In fact, they might even laugh a lot. Think it's funny, right? So how do I feel? Surrounded by people or country who do not care how they hurt me, right? And you know, in your country you have the Pancasila, right? That's the vision of how the country should be, perception, reality. Where I come from, we have what we call the Rukun Negara, right? Perception, reality. So that is why culture is so important, right? People think just because I start a company and I have a mission and vision, I'm done. Yay, let's go. No. What really matters is the culture, right? Next. So what I want to do today is, the $1 trillion company that I mentioned is called Apple. So all of you know Apple, right? So a lot of people actually are not aware of this. So I want to share this with you today, right? So they've done some research and they believe these seven elements, behaviors basically, can actually improve the culture of learning. So this is not something they just say. When I was with them before, we actually practice it. Alright? Now, it doesn't have to be this for everyone, but this is what works for them. Right? And I think if as a company, you know, we all know the history of Apple. They're the first $1 trillion company. That means something, they're doing something right. Something is working for them. Right? So what are those things? So some of these things I mentioned here are not only for the culture, for the Apple education, but it's also for the entire organization. So I'll share one by one, just to give you a deeper understanding of how we build certain behaviors to change the culture so that perception and reality becomes closer. It is impossible to make it perfect, but at least we can work towards building so that in such a way that the perceptions and the reality match. Alright? Next. Enable. So their first one is they're very big on enable collaboration. Okay, so their organizational chart is very flat. Very flat. Now the problem with being very flat is one person may not know what the other person is doing, right? That's the problem. But the reason they do that is so that it enhances collaboration. So people need to collaborate respectfully. Now, when it comes to collaboration, we always think about the physical, which is, we see it in the classroom. Okay, yesterday the teacher was joking, instructor was joking, he said, okay, I'm going to break you into groups, right? I'm going to use Canvas. So, I'm going to ask Canvas to break you, because in Canvas you can break into groups, right? So I'm going to ask AI to do it, so don't blame me. Now, it is not wrong by itself. I don't think it's wrong. I think yes, sometimes you can take, okay, I want you in one group, you in group, because you have a reason for doing that. Sometimes you're like, okay, I'm not going to decide 40 students, I'm going to ask Canvas to do it for me. That's fine. But collaboration is not just physical, but it's also emotional. Okay, it is also emotional. What does emotional mean? Emotional means that people feel safe in a group to speak up. Now, not how many of us here are introverts, meaning you usually keep quiet. I'm an introvert. I know it's hard to believe, but I am. You're introvert as well? Yeah. So sometimes you don't feel like speaking up because you feel maybe you're wrong, or maybe you may think, who am I? Right? Nggak ada posisi, who am I to speak? Right? Or will people listen to me? Yes, it's the same collaboration. Insecure, yes. So how do we make collaboration effective for people like us? Safe. Safe. You have to make it safe. So collaboration in a group, you know why sometimes groups are dysfunctional? Because there's one person who speaks a lot, decides everything, everybody like, right? Yeah. So is that collaboration? Not really. True collaboration is physical and emotional. And I'm not afraid. I may give or I may say the stupidest thing, but it's okay. I'll be listened to. I can say what I think. And after I say it, even if it's wrong, I don't have to feel bad. You know, sometimes you know what lots of people feel in a meeting or in a discussion. You say something and then you regret. And then you go home while you are lying in your bed at 10 o'clock, you are still thinking about what you said. Overthinking, right? Why? Because you don't feel safe. You feel afraid you said something wrong. That's not collaboration. So we assume as long as I put people in groups, great collaboration is happening. Actually not. It may not be happening for every student. Maybe some student. Just like if I put a group of instructors and I say collaborate, it doesn't mean collaboration happens. Because maybe one person already knows what they want. Right? Secondly, how can I make the environment safe? Is people need to learn how to listen. Next. Did you know at any one time, for example, now I'm speaking, only 45% of the things that you're listening to. The others, yes. Especially in a meeting that you don't find interesting. 45%. And at the 45% of the time that you're listening, 75% of the time you are distracted because you're thinking about something else. In my next class, I haven't posted that. And the attention span of an adult is only 22 seconds. You know where I got these statistics? From the International Association of Listening. I'm not joking. There's actually an international association for listening because people don't actively listen. Speak is easy. You know what is tougher? Listening. How do you know someone is listening to you? Eye contact, right? They look at you. I'm using my phone as a guide for the presentation, so it doesn't mean I'm not listening to you. But will people, when you come, they will put your phone down and they will say, okay, let's talk. Nowadays people don't do that, right? They always, what did you say? Oh, okay. And then scream. Who don't listen? I hope after today you have a different understanding what collaboration is. Right? It is not the physical. We focus on the physical, but it's also very highly emotional. It effective collaboration happens when there's active listening. When someone speaks, everybody listens. You don't jump in. All right? Next. This is my favorite. Eliminate buts. So in Apple, one of the things we do is we are not allowed to use the word but. Cannot use but. Okay? I want to show you a very short video. It's a show, it's called Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's a show that is not rehearsed, meaning the performers will only find out what they are supposed to do on stage. And then based on that prompts, they have to do certain things. Okay? But it's comedy. I think in Indonesia they have a lot of this. But it is called improv, meaning these people, they come in. So you cannot say but, right? Because whatever the other person say, you must add. You must plus. If not, it will stop. It will die. It will break down. So I want to show you one. Let's play that.
When they hear the phrase "get down," they have to break into rap.
That is some bull.
You can't wait to do it. You can't wait. And then when they hear "okay," they must return to the scene that they were involved in previously. So your scene, Wayne, is you are a female doctor from the big city who has newly arrived in a small rural town. Jeff, you are the arrogant doctor whose practice she is joining. Ryan is a pregnant young woman coming to give birth. And Colin, you're somebody else.
Hello.
You must be that fancy new city doctor who come to take over my practice.
Well, I didn't come to take over your practice. I really came to shed some city light on your arcane. To do a mission wasn't itty bitty. I came on an airplane from this big old city. I came to explain to the nitty gritty. I can teach you a thing, so just listen. You a cow doctor, you just nothing. You got your business, put my head in every button. All you know is dogs, you don't know medicine. If you want me, I'll go back to the very beginning again. Okay, city doctor. And that's what I do.
But I've been the general practitioner in this town for 37 years. And I ain't about to let no city slicker lassie come over and take over my position.
Well,
You got to prove yourself.
where's the next patient? I'll prove myself gladly.
I can hear a horse coming up right now.
Hi.
I have a 4 o'clock appointment. This is my first time here.
I need advice, a little nutrition. That's why I walked into your institution. Eating too much chips, been drinking too much coke. Oh my God, I just broke.
All right, and they will continue this, right? So everyone just have to be impromptu. They just have to get into the scene, and they have to what we call plus. Okay, so what improv masters are very good at is at plussing, we call it, right? So we practice something similar. So what I want to do is, all right, let's try this out. Okay, so I need volunteers. Since there's so few of us here, everyone is a volunteer, all right? So first, all right, so can I have the 3 of you, all right? Put your laptop down, come forward. All right? And I'll explain to you how the activity goes. All right, come forward, come forward. Don't be shy. Don't need anything, just come by yourself. Yes, no, you. Okay, so here's the scenario, right? Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do something like that. All right, you are from the same company. All right, and you've been tasked to plan a party holiday. All right, so each one must contribute one idea. Anyone can start. So if you start, then someone else needs to go, and then until that, if you're left, you must share, and then we go back again to somebody else. So every time, each round, one person must share. So company party holiday, that's what you're discussing, right? Anyone may start, but you must start with this. Yes, but I want you to use the word but. Right? So you start with an idea, then you need to say yes, but then you need to keep continuing. Let's see how it goes. Alright, we're going to practice using but. Alright? Okay, so who wants to go first? Okay.
So let's order some sushi. How about you?
Sushi?
Yeah.
Yes, but in our company, so many culture in our, from different country, and some of them don't like sushi, so it's there for us to make something different maybe. So
Like?
We serve with traditional food in our country.
So you continue to what she said, say yes, but
Yes, but I think now is not a good time to order the food because it's the time to go home.
okay, alright.
Okay. Yes, but we need to do this because the party will be on the morning.
Yes, but maybe just to make it more attractive, we make some competition maybe. Yes, but we haven't prepared for it. We do for it.
Alright, we'll stop here. Exactly. Sit down, sit down. Thanks. So, what happens when you keep using but?
Yeah.
Yeah, the conversation derails. Because every time someone mentions something, the other person buts. Right? And it's sometimes like when we are thinking, sometimes even us individually, right? When you are thinking about something, the emotional but will take over. Right? Like, oh, I think I can write a paper next month. And then in your mind, but because it's an emotional hijack. In a conversation, if everyone keeps saying but, what happens? It destroys the conversation. Now, I know this is just a practice, but in reality, in real conversation, this is what happens. After a while, everyone goes quiet. Why? Because they know whatever they say, there will be a but. All right, 3 of you at the back. Now let's practice the next one. All right? Yes, come. Yeah. Yes, come on. Now we're going to practice the same one, but you're going to say yes and. Alright? One person needs to start. This is the idea for the company party. And everyone will use the word yes and. Okay? Alright, who's going to start? Or maybe I'll start. I'll join you guys.
Okay.
You know what I think? Next week for our company party, I think we should book a room in a nice hotel.
Yes, and also we can invite the president of the company.
Yes, yes, and we can also have like some
Yes, and we can invite the President of Indonesia.
Yes, and that sounds like a great idea. We should definitely try to invite him.
Yes, that's also we can invite the vice president of Indonesia.
yes, and we can also invite the vice president. Yes, and then we can go to Europe maybe together.
Thank you, thank you.
Budgetnya banyak, Mbak.
She's just sharing that inside me.
Investing good.
Right, but you get the idea, all right? I mean, I know we are joking a little bit, but in a real situation, when you plus, it becomes positive, right? You are adding. It may be a good idea or not a good idea, but you can always add. You can contribute, and then the conversation will be more positive, and you may come up with a better idea. All right. So what I'm sharing right now, you know, it might seem, oh, this is so simple, but you know what? Companies like Disney, Pixar, and even Apple, they practice this. They are not allowed to say but because it's negative, right?
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that but is a wrong word, but when you can plus, why but? Right? When you can plus, why but? You know, look, I am not unintelligent. If someone can make my idea better, it's also good for me, right? So again, this is so simple, but yet I think today, in a lot of companies and organizations, we use a lot of but. We look at the negative things first, right? We look at all the way things are not going well, and we forget about plussing, right? It's a simple thing, but we can put this into practice. All right, next. Nudge success. This is very important, I think, especially for students. I had a friend in during kuliah, first year. So those days, when I was studying, it's not a modular system. That means we take the exam right at the end of the year. So if you pass, fail, decides whether you go for second year. So all the papers, sekalian. Wow, it was really pressurizing. So we had this student, a senior, he's a master's student. Sometimes he will help us. So I remember next week is exam and this week we are studying. And I think tomorrow we have a paper. So this guy comes along in the library, he said, "Hey Mano, how you doing?" I said, "Stress lah, excuse lah, right? Stress lah." Then he said, "Oh, okay. He said, "Hey guys, I want to go watch a movie. I already bought 4 tickets. Anyone wants to come with me?" So we were like shocked, you know. We were like, "What the heck? Tomorrow is exam, and today you want to go watch movie? Are you kidding?" And we are like, "Are you even ready for your exam?" So we asked him, "Hey, cannot lah." Again, lah is very important. "You're preparing for exam. How about you? Are you ready?" He said, "Okay lah." Right? So, exam result comes out, right? This guy is a master's student, straight A's. Because he's very, very smart. You know, anomaly, anomaly, right? He's very smart. I bumped into him years later because he got scholarship to study in MIT. Very smart guy, right? But not all of us are like him. Success doesn't come just like that, right? Maybe some of you here I do not know you, but maybe you are like that. All right, no need to study, get straight A's, right? But I'm not like that, right? So I improve by incremental improvement. Nudging is very important. Most of us learn incrementally. So it is important for us to recognize incremental accomplishment, nudge success. Right? You give someone a task. There's two ways of looking at it. Wrong lah. Wrong. Answer is wrong. Or you can go and say, oh, that's a great start. This is good. You understand this concept. You got this right. Nudge, right? But let's start working on this. This one, you input the wrong value. Let's try again. So nudging success is very important. You cannot expect everyone in the organization to be at the same level. Nudge, right? Nudge. Right? When you climb a mountain, do they climb Everest in one go? No one does. Right? There's base camp. Then there's camp number 1, camp number 2. Then you assault the second. Success is like that. It's like climbing a mountain. You nudge, push, and you recognize these incremental successes. So this is another culture in the organization where nudging success is important. Recognizing this small incremental success and setting points like let's not arrive there, let's start here and then we move on to the next one. When you have a new staff, when you onboard, sometimes we say, what do we say? Hit the ground running. I think sometimes that is overused. No one can hit the ground running when I do not know how your organization works. Right? So you need to help me step by step. And I will get running soon. Next. Celebrate risk. This is related to what we looked at just now. Right? When people nudge and they move and they take risk and they try something new, you celebrate. Celebrate risk. Alright, risk takers. Now taking risk is very important. Right? Because if you don't take risk, you may miss out on a lot of things. But when I say take risk, I'm talking about calculated, safe risk. Yeah? I'm not talking about, let's just go jump off a building. I'm talking about, you know what's the risk, but you just need to push yourself to take the next step. So we need to celebrate when people take risk. It is okay to take risk. When you speak up, you are taking a risk in the group. When you try something new, you are taking a risk. When you come up and speak like this, you are taking a risk. Right? Every time when you do something out of your comfort zone, you are taking a risk. And risk is important. If you don't take risk, you can't move forward. You can't nudge towards success. Right? So, one of the things that this is really cool, and I want to practice this with you. Do you know trapeze artists? Trapeze, like the one that they hang and then they. Do you know trapeze artists? Like it's high on they hang and then they fold in their hands and then they will go and then somebody will grab their legs and go, right? Those are called trapeze artists, right? So in the trapeze artists, sometimes they will make mistake, they cannot catch or they miss, they will fall. There's always a net at the bottom, right? And people will fall into the net. So one of the things you notice when they fail to catch or when they do the timing is not accurate, then they will abandon the jump. They will come back. One of the things they will do is they will stop and they will take a bow. Right? They will take a bow. It means I made a mistake and I'm going to try again. That's what it means. Right? So we take something from that and we practice this. We call it the bow bow movement. So this is how it works. Okay? So let's practice this. Okay, alright. So I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to say out something that I made something wrong. And, alright, so I need you to move your laptop, put it aside. Alright. So let's practice this. So at Apple, when we are presenting or doing something, or we are with teachers when we are training, so when someone makes a mistake, let's say for example, the screen doesn't work, or I forget my line, or something I want to show, like I want to show the video, the sound doesn't come up, right? Technical problems. What everyone does is they will stand up, they'll go, woohoo! That's what they do. Alright? So I'm going to simulate some mistakes. I'm going to say it. After I finish the sentence, I want you to stand up and go, woohoo! Alright? Can you do that? Alright, so I'll just say things out here. Oh no, my mouse is not working, there's no battery. Stand up. Alright.
So this is not like a bullying.
No, it's not. It's celebrating.
Oh.
Exactly. Now, in that culture, we teach everyone that this is encouraging. So what happens is, when I'm presenting, when something doesn't go well, oh no, I forgot my cable. That's it. Yeah. So imagine once I was presenting in the company of about 120 people, right? And I played a video and the sound output did not come. You know what everyone did? They all went at once and they went, woohoo! And then they sat down. You know what that 100 people told me? Thanks for taking the risk. And I didn't feel ashamed, I didn't feel bad, and I felt this is normal. This is technology. Sometimes it doesn't work. Even though I prepared myself. Like today, I came at 9 just to set up everything, right? Make sure the sound, everything is okay. But what if it doesn't work? I need encouragement because I tried. That's what it means. So I'm not saying you need to practice that, but how would you celebrate risk? How would you let others know that you appreciate them taking the risk? Trying something new. What would you do? What would you do in your culture? This is a culture of a very specific organization. Right? Yeah. So this is the point. Let others know it is okay to take a risk. Let's move on to the next one. I'm just going to not spend a lot of time on this because this is more to do with teaching. But make learning experiences meaningful and relevant. What is a learning flow? I was sharing with Stephanie just now because she's doing education mathematics, and I told her I'm a math teacher, right? So I was telling her why I became a math teacher, even though I wasn't good at math, and I didn't really like math when I was growing up. You know why? Because when I was young, when I learned math, there was no meaning and there was no relevance. We just learn 40 topics a year because it's in the exam. My first degree was in computer science. Then I realized, oh, this is why we learn this is why we learn Boolean logic. Yes. Matrix, oh, it's for multivariable. think multi-variable solution. In school, no meaning, no relevance. Then I learned I actually like maths. Right? And I want to teach it differently. So I think, I know all of you here, you teach different subjects, but I think to create a good learning flow is to make the learning experiences meaningful and relevant. Something people will remember and have conversations about why you're learning these things. Now it takes a little bit more effort from you as an instructor to do a little bit more research, because you may be out of the industry for a little while. You know, 1 year out of the industry is a very long time nowadays, right? Things can change. Okay? Supply chains change. Supply chains have changed these last 2 years, right? Because of all the issues around the world. So yeah, things change and you're not in the industry anymore. So you need to find out, how do you make these learnings relevant to your students and meaningful, right? It's very important. Let's move on. So it is difficult to create a good learning flow, and I like this quote because it says, people always ask me, what makes a good teacher? This is it. At the heart of becoming a good teacher is, above all else, being a lifelong learner. You cannot stop. That's what makes you a good teacher. Right? You learn with the students. Sometimes students will teach you, and you learn new techniques that you're not familiar with to engage and create better learning environments. Right? Next. This is very important in the company, being independent. We model the value of seeking rather than giving answers. That means we encourage students to be independent. And it's a skill you must teach. In Indonesia, think about K-12, yeah, SMP, SMA. Do students learn how to be independent? Does our curriculum teach this? Not really. We buy, that's why we buy lots of UDC, yeah? Past year questions. Yeah. This is not independent. This is rote learning. System, yeah. You are studying to pass exams. In real life work, you must work in teams. Now, all this culture is very related. Yeah? You cannot always be independent, but sometimes you must be collaborating. But you must do independent work before you collaborate. And when you're collaborating, you must take risk. When you share an example of how your idea can work, you must make it meaningful and relevant. You see how the culture all ties in? Yes. Right? So be a Sherlock Holmes. That's why I tell students, be a Sherlock Holmes. Always ask. Look for clues. Don't seek answers. Right? Because so easy. So if you make your exams, your assignments all about completing something, then students will cheat. They will look for answers and give you what you need so they get the grade. But if you ask them very interesting, meaningful questions, they will seek because it has value to them as well. Right? Like sometimes I start my lessons like I show a video of if you like basketball, LeBron James throwing a ball, and then I stop the video. I said, did it go in or not? What if I tell you we can use mathematics to do an accurate prediction whether it went in or not? And they say, are you sure, sir? I say, okay. Then we learn quadratics. All right, it's estimation, it's not the most accurate, but it's something for them is enough, right? Okay, so be independent. So when we work, we are encouraged to be independent, look for solutions, and come to meetings ready to collaborate and contribute ideas. Alright, next. Again, reinforcing learning, reflection is very important, and I want to close with this. Right? So, even in highly controlled experiments, right, either you're collecting qualitative or quantitative data, scientists usually give about 5% error, right? Even in the most controlled testing, 5% error. Right? What makes us think that there's no error in what we do? Right? So reflection is important and it is normal. Right? So it goes back to taking risk. When you take a risk and it fails, you reflect and reinforce it. Alright? Have you, does anyone here like sports? Like, what kind of sports do you like? Swimming, okay?
Running.
Running, alright. F1, okay. Running also, okay? Run. Huh? Badminton, yeah. Jonathan Christie won the recent Indonesian Open, right? Yeah. Okay. You? Swimming. Have you watched interviews like this top professional athletes after they finish a match? Right? I love racket games, tennis, squash. So you see these tennis interviews after a match. Right? Very high level, very professional, and then they'll interview the loser, right? So what do you think happened to your game? Yeah, today I just made too many errors, wasn't focused. And you're like, you made 27 errors in the entire match. I made 27 errors in one service game. Right? These are pros. They are so hard on themselves because 27 errors only in a 4-hour match can lose them the match. Right? Or running. Right? First place, 9.90 seconds. Second place, 9.89 seconds. It is like I'm right behind you. When they interview the second place, what would he say? Yeah, today my starting was not very good. Yeah? Now, I understand these are professionals. So small things, margin becomes big. But we are not professionals, right? So how should we assess ourselves? Be kind to yourself, right? And I always tell myself, whenever I assess myself, let's say I go play a game today and I have a bad game, really didn't play well, so I feel a bit frustrated. So I need to assess. I need to reinforce learning. You know what I do? I do the 3-2-1. What were the 3 highs today? 1, I was very frustrated, but I kept calm. Number 2, I finished the game. I felt like quitting, but I finished the game. Thirdly, I did hit a few good backhands. 3 highs. 2 lows. I'll identify 2 lows. And then 1 forward. What is one thing I want to work? Cannot work on everything. Pick one. Next week, I want to serve better. Because my service today was atrocious. So, what's the plan? Maybe on Wednesday, I will practice before my match on Friday. Enough. Be kind to yourself. Right? That's how you reinforce learning. Okay, so this is what we are taught. When you make mistakes, it's okay. But you must learn. Alright? So this is Apple's culture of learning. So now you know. This is what they practice. Disney, Pixar. Okay? The reason is because Steve Jobs started Pixar. Right? Pixar was bought over by Disney. Right? So that's how the relation is. Right? And Apple, of course, is a company that Steve Jobs started. So again, these are the 7 culture of learning by Apple that permeates the work that they do. I do not know how much of an impact this has on their success as a company. Maybe it does, because they practice these things. Right? I can attest, when I was in Apple education, I remember we really do practice these things, some of these things. Right? So it feels very comfortable when you are working, because you know everyone practices this culture. It's perception and reality, there's some similarity. Yeah. It's nurturing. So I find it nurturing. I don't find it toxic. Okay? So, next. So let's reflect. Right? Where do you find culture in your life? Okay, for those of us online, maybe you can respond. Where can you find culture in your own life? At work. Here, right? You're working in a culture.
On the road.
Right? I was in Malaysia a month ago, so I took Grab. Right? So I took Grab. This Grab driver picked me up, and while she was driving, I think she got a bit hungry. It was lunchtime. So she opened the plastic, ate, she wind down the window, and then she threw the plastic out of the house. And I'm like, aduh. Culture, right? But I don't care. I know someone tukang sapu has to clean it, but I don't care. Right? Recently, people were so amazed by the Japanese football team, right? Did you hear about that?
Yes.
Right? After their match, after they finish their match, the changing room is cleaner than they were given. And somehow they make origami and they leave it. Win or lose. Spectators who are watching the World Cup, after World Cup, they collect the rubbish. Not only theirs, but others. So people are amazed. Why do they do this? But if you do not know Japanese culture, from a very young age, students clean their classrooms. They are taught, this classroom is yours, you will clean before you leave. So they are so used to it. Everywhere I go, I must keep clean. So when they go to Qatar, what do? They practice their culture. Right? Wouldn't you like to be in that kind of a culture? Right? At home, your kids don't throw all the clothes everywhere, right? They clean it themselves. So, this culture where in your community, this culture in your workplace, there's even culture at your home. Some culture are nurturing, some can be not good. Not toxic, but not good. So you can change. How many of us here are married? 2 of you, yeah? Do you have kids? Do you have kids? Almost, or expecting, congratulations. I have 2 kids. So what kind of culture do you want in your family? You need to start thinking. What kind of culture you want your children to grow up with? I used to drink Coke one every day. One Coke every day. I stopped in 2002 when my daughter was born. Because how can I tell my children don't drink Coke? It's not good for you when I drink one every day. So I stopped. Now I don't drink Coke anymore. You see, culture, right? You decide and you build that culture. Another example I can give you in family. My wife and I, we fight openly in front of the children. Not purposely, but if it happens and our kids are there, we are okay with it. Why? Because we want to know them to know adults, we also fight and disagree. And it's okay because mommy and daddy always will make up. We will fight, but we make up. So we are teaching them, sometimes you will have disagreements with your brother, but it's okay. You will make up. You will have fights with your friends, but you will make up. So we want them to know it's okay. So sometimes my daughter will come, hey dad, fighting is it? I said yes. Then I'll jokingly tell her, of course it's your mother's fault. Then she'll just smile and she'll walk away. And you know, we forget it up. Or sometimes my kids will come and give me advice. Dad, come on, right? So that's my culture, right? It doesn't have to be yours. So I just want you to take away that I hope you understand today how culture is so important. So it is not what's on the VCDC, but what happens in reality in the ground. Right? If not, the culture may not be conducive for you to do your teaching and learning and create the environment that you want. Alright, so I hope today you learned something new, that you learn about the culture. I gave you an example. So it's something that you can reflect on, something that I think maybe this organization as well, in Sampurna University, you can rethink about your own culture in your organization and how we can make it more nurturing, how we can bring what is the perception and the reality much closer. And I hope this example of a company really helps you to think about a lot of things in your own life. Okay, so that's it for the presentation. We have still about a few minutes time. So if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
So there's questions in chat box from Sir Eka.
Yeah.
The question is what and how to set a feasible risk to take.
How to?
What and how to set a feasible risk to take. First is related to celebrating the risk.
Okay. How to set visible risk. Okay. I'm trying to understand the question. I think taking risk is on two levels, right? So the example I shared here is more creating an organizational culture of people feeling confident to take risks, and I think that ties in with creating a safe environment, right? Where and it's very simple, you know, when you speak up, you're not punished, right? When you speak up, you're not silenced. When you speak up, no one laughs at you. When you speak up, you don't roll your eyes, right? I think it's the behavior, right, that encourages, I think, people to take risks. Now, if you're talking about personal risk, I think I mentioned about taking calculated and safe risk, right? When is a good time to start a business to try? When you have adequate savings, some buffer, and maybe you do not have a family, right? Or you have a family, but your wife has a stable job, so I can take a risk. So I think when it comes to taking risk, individual risk, I think you need to think about different things in your life, in your family, in your work, your savings, the market. You know, like for example, 2 years ago, it's not a good time to start any business, right? Because of COVID and all that. So I think on a personal or in those kind of risks that relate to you personally, I think the variables vary. But I think in an organizational, I'm talking more about setting behaviors that allows people to take risks. If people are not taking risks, we need to ask why are they not taking risks? What's stopping them, right? And then eliminate those barriers, right? So that people start taking risks more. I hope that answers the question. Are there any other questions? Okay, all right. Any questions from the audience here? Yes.
Well, I was wondering what the technology you use. I mean, from the phone to control.
Oh, okay. So, because I'm on the Apple ecosystem, yeah. So, Apple allows me to remotely control. This becomes a remote. So actually she's helping me because it has to be on the same platform. Yeah. On the same Wi-Fi before I can do that. So once here, I can remotely control. So it allows me to walk, and I can also see my notes. Yeah. So if I show you, you see, I can see my slide, but I make it in such a way that I can see my. Yeah. So my notes will show up at the bottom. So that's, yeah. And the second thing you might have noticed is in Apple how we do our presentation. It's very little things on the slide.
So do you need Apple TV also?
No need. Today I'm using HDMI, but if you use, let's say if you use the Apple, I think CETL has some iPads. If you use it with the Apple TV, then you can walk. You can teach like this, you can write, so you're not stuck in the front. If you use cable, you are stuck. Right? So that's why I use this or iPad, so I can walk around instructing. And I can write, and people can see it on the screen. Yeah, so it's the Apple ecosystem now. That's right. Any other questions? Okay, fantastic, great. Thank you for taking your time to join me. I know it's a Friday, and those who joined us online as well. Thank you for joining us, and until I see everyone in my next trip. All right, thank you so much. All right, there's some food. Please don't forget to take. Yeah, some snacks. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Makasih ya.
Oh, there's an evaluation form, please. So, when is the delivery date?
Maybe beginning of July.
Beginning of July. Do you know the sex of the baby?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe next month.
Next month. Are you planning to find out or
Yes, of course.
not surprised? Yeah.
Kamu nggak dapet ya?
Helps with the planning, yeah. What clothes to buy.
Dapat. Terus sekarang mau belinya. Coba pakai. Enggak, kok pakai.